Have you ever wondered how a major cyber attack really gets started? You know, if you forget the Hollywood stuff with the crazy typing and giant red alarms everywhere, the truth is it almost always begins with something much, much quieter. It's basically digital spying. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that very first move, cyber reconnaissance.
So, yeah, how does it begin? Well, it's not with some brilliant piece of malicious code. Nope. It all kicks off with a simple question. What do I actually know about my target? Answering that question, well, that's the first step down the rabbit hole. And honestly, this phase can make or break the entire attack.
And that phase has a name, reconnaissance. Just think of it like a military scout, carefully mapping out enemy territory way before a single soldier even thinks about moving in. In the cyber world, it's all about gathering that crucial intelligence to find the weakest link in the chain. It is the absolute foundation of pretty much every sophisticated attack you hear about.
Now, reconnaissance isn't just one thing. It's split into two main styles. First up is what I like to call the way of the silent observer, passive reconnaissance. This is the digital equivalent of being a ghost, just gathering clues without leaving so much as a single footprint.
The golden rule here is incredibly simple. You never, ever make direct contact with the target. You're not knocking on any of their digital doors, you're not rattling any windows, you are just watching from a safe distance, using information that's already out there for the whole world to see.
And it's this stealth that really defines the whole approach. I mean, with absolutely no direct contact, the risk of getting caught is practically zero. It's all about using public info. So, what's the catch? Well, it can be a slow, really painstaking process. But for an attacker who values staying hidden, that level of stealth is absolutely priceless.
And here's the wild part. The tools for this are things you and I use every single day. We're talking about search engines, social media, a company's own website. It works because organizations have to be public, right? They need to advertise, they need to hire people, they need to communicate. Attackers just get really good at exploiting that need, finding all these little clues that are hidden in plain sight.
And this, right here, this is a perfect example. A totally innocent-looking job post can be an absolute goldmine of information. This company, just by trying to hire the right person, has told the entire world two critical pieces of information: what kind of security they use, and the brand of their network equipment. That is a huge head start for an attacker, and it didn't cost them a thing to find out.
So when you boil it all down, you're left with this classic trade-off. On one hand, you get this incredible stealth, making you almost impossible to spot, but on the other, the information you get might be frustratingly incomplete, or even worse, totally out of date. It's a game of patience, just trying to piece a giant puzzle together.
Okay, so being a ghost is great. But what happens when an attacker needs more detail? What if they need info that public sources just can't give them? Well, that's when they shift gears. They go from being a silent observer to a direct investigator. And this is active reconnaissance.
And now, the rules of the game change completely. Active reconnaissance is all about making contact. The attackers start sending signals, or packets, directly to the target's network just to see what kind of response they get back. They are literally walking up to the digital front door and knocking to see who's home.
Yeah, this is the total opposite of being passive. You've got direct contact, which means the risk of being detected by firewalls or intrusion detection systems goes way, way up. But the reward for that risk, you get accurate, real-time data about the target's defenses. It's fast, it's effective, but boy, is it noisy.
So a classic move here is something called a port scan. Just imagine a server is like a giant office building with, say, 65,000 doors, and each one has a number. A port scan is like an attacker walking down the hallway and trying every single one of those doorknobs. They send a tiny request to each port to see if it's open, closed, or maybe being protected by a filter. This basically creates a map of all the potential ways into the system.
And boom, a result like this is exactly what they are hoping to find. Seeing that port 22 is open tells them the server is almost certainly listening for remote connections using a protocol called SSH. For an attacker, that is a wide-open invitation to start trying to find a way in. It's a very specific, very actionable piece of intel. So the trade-off here is crystal clear. You get incredibly detailed, super precise technical info that you can use right away. But every single thing you do is like leaving a footprint in fresh snow. It's easily logged, it can be tracked, and it's probably going to set off a whole bunch of security alarms.
All right, so we've got our silent spy on one side and our direct investigator on the other. Let's put them head-to-head in a little showdown to really hammer home the differences in how they operate.
When you really strip it all away, it just boils down to this. Passive reconnaissance is all about stealth, about piecing together indirect clues. Active reconnaissance, on the other hand, is all about speed and getting direct answers from the target itself.
This table just lays it all out perfectly. You've got passive recon, no direct interaction, super low detection risk, but it's slow and the info's indirect. Then you've got active recon. Yep, you're interacting, so the detection risk is high, but it's fast and gives you direct technical details. And you can't ignore that last line. The legal risks of active recon are way, way higher. You're no longer just looking, you're touching.
Okay, so here's the thing. In the real world, a smart attacker doesn't just pick one or the other. No way. They combine them. They use them together in a sophisticated, multi-stage playbook.
And the strategy is actually really logical and super efficient. First, you start passive. You stay quiet, you build a map of the organization, you identify key people, you find potential targets, all without raising a single flag. And then, only then, once you have that intelligence, do you switch to active mode to launch very focused, surgical scans. This way, you minimize the noise you make and maximize your chances of finding a weak spot before anyone knows you're there.
And that right there, that's why we're talking about all this. It's the big takeaway. I mean, if you want to defend your house, you have to understand how a burglar cases the joint first, right? Knowing this two-step playbook is absolutely fundamental to building a security system that can spot both the silent observers and the direct probers.
So, I'm going to leave you with a question to chew on. Now that you know the tools of the hunt, now that you see how attackers gather information from the outside, how visible are you? What does your own digital footprint, or your company's footprint, actually look like to one of these silent observers? It's a question that is definitely worth asking.